The Oppo F9 Pro is a phone for those who want to be noticed. It's pretty obvious that Oppo is prioritizing fashion as well as features. There's a new subtle notch on the top of the screen, the promise of excellent battery life as well as rapid charging, and of course Oppo's usual emphasis on the front camera. All these things combined might earn the F9 Pro a few fans. Unlike most phones these days, the emphasis here is on the back. Oppo has come up with three extremely eye-catching multicolor finishes for the F9 Pro. The sunrise red finish, which you can see on our review unit, has a gradient of rich deep crimson and violet with a swirly diamond pattern. The other two options also have iridescent metallic finishes. On our sunrise red review unit, the colors look different depending on how you hold the phone and how it catches the light. That isn't all though. Oppo has managed to tone down the notch to only a slight rounded dip in the center of the top of the screen to accommodate the front camera. Oppo calls this a water drop shape, and while it is definitely more organic than we're used to, it's no less distracting. The frame of the Oppo F9 Pro isn't metal. The company hasn't specified whether it's used reinforced glass for the front and rear, which is quite disappointing at this price level. The overall construction feels solid and the phone is reasonably easy to hold and use. At 169 grams, it isn't too heavy. You'll still have to stretch your thumbs to reach all corners of the screen though. There's no dust or splash resistance. The power button on the right and volume buttons on the left are within easy reach, as is the fingerprint sensor on the rear. We were surprised to see a micro USB port on the bottom rather than the more modern Type-C port. There's also a 3.5mm headset jack and a single speaker on the bottom. The tray on the left has individual slots for 2 nano SIMs and a micro SD card, which is always nice to see. There's an octa-core MediaTek Helio P60 processor that has an integrated ARM Mali G72 GPU and boasts of AI processing and power efficiency enhancements. Oppo sells only one version of the F9 Pro with 6GB of RAM and 64GB of storage. However, the company has taken the unusual step of simultaneously announcing the Oppo F9, a model that is identical in every way other than having only 4GB of RAM instead of 6GB of RAM. Although it's been announced, this model isn't officially in stores yet, and Oppo hasn't told us when it will be. We're also surprised that there's only a 4,000 rupee difference between the Oppo F9 and the F9 Pro. One of the F9 Pro's headlining features is its 3500 mAh battery and support for Oppo's VOOC rapid charging standard. All the required circuitry is built into the charger rather than the phone, which Oppo says prevents the phone from heating up while charging. Oppo has used an LTPS LCD panel which consumes less power but is expensive to manufacture. The panel measures 6.3 inches and has a 19.5:9 aspect ratio with a resolution of 1080 by 2340. Colors are bright and vibrant and viewing angles are also very good. We were able to use this phone outdoors without any trouble. The notch and rounded corners do result in quite a bit of cropping when watching videos full screen. Unfortunately, the built-in speaker is quite awful. Everything sounded screechy and distorted, and most of the music we tried listening to was just not enjoyable. Oppo's ColorOS skin is now at version 5.2 and is based on Android 8.1. Our review unit had the July 2018 security patch. To say that ColorOS is heavily customized would be an understatement. There isn't an app drawer, and the icons on the home screen are all comically large. A floating panel gives you quick access to app shortcuts as well as screenshot tools. If you use it while watching a video in landscape, some apps can launch as floating windows. An interesting privacy feature is that you can choose to spoof your call history, contacts, messages, and events if apps try to access them. Face recognition is supported, but you have to wake your phone and then swipe upwards to trigger the front camera, which is an annoying extra step. There's a fair bit of bloatware, including UC Browser and Amazon Shopping. We were prompted to install more apps during the initial setup process through an Oppo App Store and also through a Hot Apps panel on the home screen that deceptively looks like any other folder. If you judge the Oppo F9 Pro based solely on its performance and benchmarks, it'll come out looking a bit weak. Setting aside the obviously more powerful Xiaomi Poco F1, this phone also doesn't compare favorably to the similarly priced Huawei Nova 3i or the Honor Play. It's also outperformed by the lower priced Xiaomi Mi A2. Casual games seem to run fine, but Asphalt 9 Legends struggled. Gameplay was a bit too choppy to be enjoyable, and even the UI and menus were sluggish. We also noticed that the upper rear of this phone got warm almost instantly when a heavy game loaded, and remained warm enough to be distracting throughout. It's safe to say that the Oppo F9 Pro isn't your best bet if you're serious about current gen games. On the other hand, this phone's battery life is quite remarkable. With just a 3500 mAh battery, the Oppo F9 Pro managed to run for 13 hours 12 minutes in our HD video loop test. With ordinary use, including some gaming, video streaming, and plenty of time spent online, we easily sailed through a full day and didn't have to worry about the battery level till the next morning. A 10-minute charge from zero took us up to 19%, and we were able to get to nearly 75% in just 40 minutes. Oppo's camera app is somewhat like the iOS app, just with a lot more going on. The main mode ribbon at the bottom includes time-lapse, slow-mo, portrait, sticker, pano, and expert modes, along with the standard photo and video. Portrait mode was pretty fussy about prompting us to move closer to or further away from our subjects. There are also lighting effects which are little more than mild filters. The slow-mo and time-lapse video modes didn't have any options at all for us to tweak, not even the resolution. You get Google Lens integration in the standard photo mode, along with beautification filters and a choice of aspect ratios. You can simulate a depth effect with the front camera, but it isn't very natural. Similarly, the beautification mode is set to AI by default, and we found it to be way too aggressive, making us almost look like cartoon characters. Selfies taken indoors weren't very impressive. In daylight, we found the app to be responsive, locking focus quickly. Our sample shots looked crisp with good colors and adequate detail. In portrait mode, the app often took a few moments to settle the difference between foreground and background objects, but we were able to see the effect on screen and decide when to capture our shots. At night, there was quite a bit of focus lag. Shots came out with murky detail and a lot of blurring when dealing with even slightly moving objects. Most of our sample photos were very well lit, but strong post-processing appeared to have taken its toll on overall quality. The front camera is usually one of Oppo's biggest highlights, but in this case we weren't terribly impressed. Faces looked sharp, but background details were completely lost. The depth effect made backgrounds look a little cartoony, which might not be a bad thing, and edge detection was fairly good. Selfies taken at night were grainy, and we wouldn't want to show them off on our social media. You have a choice between 720p and 1080p for video recording with the rear cameras, but there are no other settings to play with. We saw a lot of focus shifting, and the lack of stabilization was evident throughout our sample clips. Overall, we're somewhat disappointed with the Oppo F9 Pro's camera capabilities. Oppo obviously knows that the F9 Pro's aesthetic won't be for everyone, but that's okay. People who are most concerned with practicality have plenty of other choices anyway. If a bright red and purple phone makes you happy, then by all means go for it. Our biggest question is whether buyers will be willing to prioritize design over performance. The Oppo F9 Pro does deliver excellent battery life and a reasonable overall user experience. However, this isn't the best you can get for your money by a long shot. We would have liked at least a metal body, basic video stabilization and weatherproofing at this price point. In fact, the Oppo F9 priced at 4,000 rupees less seems to be a much better deal. We also can't ignore the obvious outlier in this price band, the base variant of the Xiaomi Poco F1, which might be a little more difficult to buy but offers excellent value for money. Thanks for watching, and for more reviews and videos like this, do visit us at gadgets360.com.